Where did Cain's wife come from? And we covered this earlier, actually, in one of our episodes that we started out with. But a quick rundown is we believe that, Adam and Eve were the first creation, first created humans in God's image. And God may have, okay, as we explained in the episodes earlier, he may have made more humans after the creation of Adam and Eve. They just weren't put in the garden. And because God doesn't change, he doesn't change his mind about what is sin and what is not sin. So Cain could not have married one of his descendants, because that would have been from Seth or any other brother or sister. That would have been his niece or nephew.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is forbidden to marry anybody next of kin.
Yeah. Couldn't be his sister.
And definitely couldn't have been his sister. So and we can't prove this. It's just a theory, but you've got a little bit more deeper meaning that could bring some things to light.
Yeah. If y'all go back and watch our previous episodes, you'll see that I constantly try to bridge the gap between our biblical knowledge and, as much as we can understand at our non-scientific level, the what we know from science, what we know from archaeology and paleontology and all the ologies.
Yeah.
So we know that humans. Let me try to phrase it like this. We know that anatomically modern humans have mated with and interbred with other hominin species like Neanderthals, Denisovans, the Homo naledi, the Homo heidelbergensis, the Homo floresiensis, and others. They scientists seem to think that there are other groups that we don't have any fossils for, so we can't compare the DNA to them, but there seems to be at least other genetic contributions to ours from ghost populations that we just don't know who they were, what they were like, just that they were different and left different signatures on our DNA than the rest. So what I'm proposing is that perhaps Adam and Eve were created, Adam created from the dust, Eve created from Adam, but other human species were created, like you said, after or before, whenever, doesn't really matter, that were not anatomically modern, that instead of being created from the dust of the earth like Adam was, perhaps were the result of another method of creation that weren't necessarily created in the image of God, that we were still genetically, physiologically close enough to, that they made it with, and perhaps that's where Abel died, but Seth and Cain got their first wives from and had children with, and perhaps that is who Cain is alluding to when he's talking about in response to God's judgment. He says, "Whoever catches me will kill me," and then he goes out into the land of Nod, which literally means the land of the nomad, the land of the vagabond. So perhaps there were these groups of humans, hunter-gatherers, that were running around outside of the garden, like you said, Tony, and he went and mingled with them for a while. Um, so that is all I got. But then again, we see this in the Bible that the Bible doesn't list every person
Mhm.
born. So if you're looking for a biblical justification for this bridge between science and faith, um, the Bible itself tells us that it doesn't list every single human being that lived, even in those generations, because it says in Genesis 5:4 that this person it's talking about had other sons and daughters, and that's all we're told about these children. They're there. We don't know how many. We don't know how many of them were sons, how many of them were daughters. Just that they were born. So it's possible that there were other um, hominin species that were created that were close enough to us that were allowed to serve as a genetic contributor to help humans that were created in God's image flourish and conquer the earth.
Mhm. Now, and I don't know if this really matters too much. We had talked about this, that the line of Seth is the one that leads to Noah,
Yeah.
and the rest, Cain and all his descendants, they're going to be wiped out anyway, so to speak. Anyway, so that species will no longer exist.
Yeah.
Who Cain mixed with.
Yeah,
So,
and we see that in the fossil record.
mhm.
All those other hominin species disappeared one way or the other.
Right.